Welcome back everyone to Lamb's Cryptoverse. So today we're going to talk more about how to analyze specific blockchain projects. Now, as the crypto winter carries on and on, everyone starts getting apathetic and giving up. This is a time when finally, like I've been expecting and hoping, when shitcoins actually do worse than other coins, because right now everything has a correlation of 1 with Bitcoin. All the altcoins have a correlation of 1. They're all moving together. But as the crypto winter ensues, more fundamentals will matter more. That's what it is. So I think it's important to analyze blockchain projects, not just looking at token or coin charts, but actually know the fundamentals of these projects. So let's get started. Today we're going to talk about only one factor: developers. How do I analyze developers? And listen, I'm no expert here. We're all going on this crypto journey together. Let's see where it takes us. And if you have any comments or disagree with something I said, please add it in the comments. And the other thing before we go on is that one of the most important things I want to so-called teach people is how to fish, how to basically, I don't want to give them fish, I want to give them the tools to catch their own fish. And the most important topic within this is that you got to double check your work. When you see data from one source or someone tweets it out, you got to double check it. So let's get started. I have a lot to talk about. Now I'm going to go pretty fast because I've got a lot to talk about. So like I said, we're talking about developers, and what I'm going to do is use one specific example project so it's more interesting. So we all know about Solana. Solana got hit badly. Let me just minimize myself. They got really hit because of what's going on with FTX. They're getting hit numerous ways from FTX. Number one, FTX, the bankruptcy. After the bankruptcy court, what they're going to have to do, a ruling, restructuring, they're going to have to sell the Solana tokens. But the other thing is that FTX and SAM basically control the Solana blockchain, especially the apps that are on it, like Serum, the decentralized app, but some other apps. And you also had the keys, control the keys. Solana's been in really bad shape. And also, to make things worse, I don't know if this was done coercively, like if FTX actually controlled Solana directly, but basically Solana, a lot of its funding was in the FTX's FTT token, so that makes it even worse. So besides that, you can see the headline here. Solana's active developer count falls over 96% in 2022, and the total value locked is crashing. So things are really bad. So let's take a look at developers to see what the news or the true news is, like what's really going on. So if you look at sentiment.net, this is so I want to give you all the sources that I look at to examine developers. So the first one is sentiment.net. So I typed in project and I added a metric for developer activity contributor count. Right here you can see dev activity contributor count. And you can see it's plunged. So it seems to be confirming the news headline right here. So let's go to another data source. And then if you look at total value locked, it was 10 billion, right? Can you see that? On November 5th of 2021, it was $10 billion, 9.95 billion. And now it's only, and I got my pointer here, it's only $250 million. It's plunged dramatically, even more than the total value locked for the whole market. So something's very wrong. And you could see it's plunged because of what we discussed earlier, the demise of FTX. So with that in mind, let's continue to see what's going on with developers. So if you look here, this is Github.com. That's another place I look at to understand or try to understand development activity. And let's go back. I should have told you this earlier, but you need to follow the developers and follow the money. So first of all, we need to know they have funding. because the project has funding, they can pay the salaries of the developers. So then you want to see how many developers they have. And if they have developers, they can develop apps, dApps. And if they develop the dApps, you get more total value locked and more transactions. That's why you need to look, I should have said this earlier, holistically. See, I said earlier you need to double check, but you also need to look at things holistically. So here I'm looking at GitHub, and GitHub is really difficult to understand, and it's very confusing. And it's showing a 14,583 repository results for Solana. So you want to look, and this is what's called repo actually. And not to get mixed up with TradFi that calls repos repurchase agreements. Nothing to do with that. So we not want to see the trend of this, but the issue besides that is, and we also want to see the trend of commits, but the issue is, which Solana were you looking at? Are we looking at Solana Labs, Solana Labs token list, and it goes on and on. Program library example. I mean, it goes on and on. So what do we look at? And I think, and I'm going to show you later on, there was a mistake made with looking at the GitHub pages when we were looking at the 96% decline in developers. So you got to be careful. So now, this one I tend to like more. This is from CoinGecko.com. You can get a lot of information. So I type in Solana, and then you can choose different things like social, meaning, what's the number of Twitter followers, Reddit, average accounts active, Telegram users. So this is really good. But for now, we're just going to talk about developers. Now, if you notice, they're only looking at one of GitHub's sites, Solana-labs/Solana. And then if you go to that site on GitHub, which is this one, let me just open a new tab. Actually, I think I have it open already. Yeah, if you go to it right here, you can see that some of the data actually jives. It makes sense with what we're seeing. Contributors are 413, and there's some other data. I'm trying to see. Pull requests are 277, 999 issues, and then if you go back to CoinGecko, you can see the contributor count is somewhat close, and then you could kind of coincide this. And I've also what's the word I want to use? I've confirmed the stars data. I went to Messari.com, and you could actually get the stars data there. So this is good. And we're also seeing the merge pull requests. So you want to see this. You want to see large numbers here, and you want to see the trend going up. So this is good. So now we're going to. So now I'm still worried about Solana. Did they really lose that many developers? Well, we know as a fact, and we confirmed that the total value lock has crashed. And we know that because I double checked that FTX screwed them with their Serum decentralized exchange. They got screwed big time. That's where most of the TVL was locked up. So that exchange has gone bye-bye. They've converted to another decentralized exchange in the name of security. They need to be secure. They couldn't trust that the keys were being held at FTX's headquarters. So let's go back to this. So now we know that TVL has crashed, but have developers really crashed? So Messari, this is Messari special report they put out recently. They looked at a survey, and there's a whole bunch of questions. I'm going to focus on one or two. But where does it start? I guess it starts back up here. But basically, what they said is they polled developers and they said, "Are you going to deploy in other chains?" And obviously, the majority is Solana, and the other one is Ethereum. And Ethereum is not even a generation 2 or 3 competitor of Solana. So really, I don't see that much competition. And there's Aptos, but a lot of people saying pretty bad things about Aptos, and that's another FTX name. So you don't really have that much competition. So that's a good sign. And these surveys go on and on. The point is of these survey questions is that developers are in fact not leaving Solana. And I confirmed that Solana still has a lot of money. I believe they have at least $250 to $300 million in their treasury. And Solana Foundation has confirmed that they have 30 months of operating cash just for the developers. So we know that they're in good shape. And we also know that they're top 3 or top 4 most funded blockchain projects. So I feel secure about that. So you see how this all comes together? They got the cash, and the surveys are saying that the developers are not leaving. So that's a really good sign. What else? Team directly impacted by FTX. This surprised me. This question was asking, like I just said, was there specific teams directly affected? And they said no exposure. I was shocked. I thought the exposure would have been much higher. So that's a good sign. And these questions go on and on. Now I want to talk to you about something really important. This is like one of the best questions, best data points of all. And it's developers on Solana. And it says GitHub repos, and that's repositories, and the number of daily unique programs are up 2.5 times despite a 95% price decline in Solana. So basically, Solana's price is crashing. The total value locked is crashing. But as of November 22nd, you can see that the GitHub repositories are still increasing dramatically. And the daily unique programs are increasing dramatically. So this, to me, is very strong evidence that Solana is not going anywhere. Their death has been exaggerated. The developers are remaining on the Solana blockchain project. They're not leaving. So that's a really good sign. I think, though, of course, that FTX's bankruptcy and the 3AC and Voyager and Terra Luna collapse has all together set back Solana by at least 1 year. The good news is that other blockchain competitors are not doing too well either. They've been set back. Because remember, Solana has been a leader in terms of execution of dApps. So I still think they're remaining number 1. If not, they're in the top 3. They're not doing that badly, even with this kick below the belt. The only chain that's doing better than Solana is a level 2 chain, which is Polygon, and you should all know about how well they're doing. So let me go over some other data I'm looking at. So if you go to Alchemy, they also do work on Web3 and development. And again, they're saying what I just quoted you from another data source, that there's a greater than 1,000% growth in an active development team year to date, and on and on. And API consumption strong. So they're confirming what I just read to you. And this is a person that put out that survey that I talked about earlier. It's from Ali at Analytical Ali on Twitter. And you can follow that person. You can see the survey results yourself. And these are the questions right here. How you feeling about Solana? You're deploying other chains. And we already discussed this already. But you could see, if you want to look at every single question, you could go ahead and look at this thread on Twitter. I want to go on because I have a lot to talk about. Another place to look is Crypto-Miso. I like this a lot. And if you look up here, they show the top top 10 chains in terms of developers. And you can see Solana's right here. So that's a good sign. And one thing I want to point out when you're looking at this is always look at the date. So if you look at the bottom here, it says updated 2022 11/19. But some other ones were updated in December. So you want to make sure you get the most recent date. Because I'm speaking to you near the end of the year. And so this data is a little stale. But it's still showing that Solana is a top 3 chain in terms of developers. That's really important. Actually, I should say commits. But this is very, very important. So always look at Crypto-Miso. And next is Electric Capital. They do a great report on developers. I'm sure most of you know about them. They do it from a top-down helicopter view, but also they look at the weeds. They go into the individual projects, and they look at the growth of those developers. The only issue, not really an issue, only thing with Electric Capital is that their developer report comes out once a year, and so this data is stale. And then I think this is the last one. Yep, the last one is from TokenTerminal. You can get a lot of data from TokenTerminal. I won't go into it, but I'll just tell you quickly. On the left side here, you can see fees, revenue, earnings, price to fees, price to sales ratio, and treasury. The treasury information would be really helpful, but there is no information. Every time I look at a project, it says NA. The good news is they do have data on developers. And what did I click here? Active developers. And so you can see that data there. So that's it. There was a lot to talk about. Thanks for bearing with me. And so today, the key thing was, what's one factor? Today was just one factor that I look at when I look at a coin. And number two, when you go into these websites, what are you looking at? What should you look out for? And number three, most important, does it make sense? And remember to use a holistic approach.